It's called the Barrens, right at the southernmost tip of Newfoundland, and the name really fits. Not much there but grasslands, wildlife, and long, ragged fingers of rock jutting into the sea. And here it is, one of the most important rocks in the world of paleontology. 565 million years old and filled with these. Something like 4,000 fossils of the oldest life forms on the planet.
What you've got basically is a snapshot of a deep sea community that's 565 million years old. Volcanic ash came in, killed and preserved the impressions of the fossils, and so scientists can look at one of the earliest deep sea communities known in the world.
A few 100 million years later, continental drift and massive undersea upheavals pushed this deep seabed up and out of the ocean. It's now called Mistaken Point. It's on these massive rocky steps the fossils were discovered in the 1960s.
Our major problem here actually is with natural erosion, and what we found is that although erosion does expose more fossils, within the reserve and this portion of the coast, far more fossils are being lost to the sea and freeze-thaw action. We have photographs that scientists took 10 and 20 years ago, and we can match individual fossils, and even with the limited amount of foot traffic on these surfaces, we can see that the fossils are being subjected to wear and tear.
Today, the rescue mission is underway. Museums from around the world, as well as the government of Newfoundland, have hired Research Casting International to come here and take a mold of the rock face with the most fossils on it. Hundreds of kilograms of supplies and equipment are flowing in for this massive undertaking.
The job here at Mistaken Point is quite a challenge. The surface of the fossils is very fractured, very cracked. The one thing we always have to keep in mind here is that any damage here is permanent.
The sponges are to sponge out the water that are in the crevices, cracks and crevices. The brushes to clean off the surface itself. And then we're just going through the whole site, cleaning it all off in preparation.
The plan is to coat the rock with latex rubber and take impressions of the fossils.
We were out here in June. We were out for a week and it was about 10 degrees, raining and foggy every single day. And we tested our materials in that environment, so we know our materials will still work.
Job one is carrying in bag after bag of dirt.
Surface has an awful lot of deep cracks in it, very deep cracks. And our biggest concern is when our rubber goes into the cracks, it'll go down and mushroom. And if it mushrooms below the surface, we'll never get the rubber out.
No one is allowed to walk on the fossils with normal boots or shoes, so the entire team is now lugging all this gear back and forth in little neoprene scuba booties.
Yeah, we've cleaned out one section where an awful lot of gravel's fallen down. It has beautiful, beautiful fossils there.
The only tools allowed here are dental picks and brushes.
Back in the 70s or 80s, some molds were taken off the fossils, which is better than taking the fossils out completely, but they have left a mess.
There's no power in the Barrens, of course, so they brought their own generator. And at the same time the rock is being cleaned, the latex is mixed. Then comes more carrying.
As much as you can of that part.
From the leading edge back.
That's right, yeah.
In the meantime, Peter May has just been told the Royal Ontario Museum would like a larger cast than originally anticipated. Problem? Is there enough latex to go around? For the museum, there are just so many really good fossils, they want to preserve as many of them as possible.
You see these three-dimensional fossils. Some of them are, from a fingernail to about 20 centimeters long. These forms are not known today.
The first coat goes on very quickly. Starting at the top and working their way down, fossil after fossil is covered in the thick, gooey rubber until the rock face itself begins to look like the surface of a swimming pool. At the end of a 14-hour day, the first coat is complete. Day two, and the team wastes no time. The weather can change on a dime out here, and it does. For the next 2 days, the latex waits for the next stage, the application of the foam backing.
We're getting ready to foam, and the product that we're using we can't use with any moisture or it won't expand. I think in about a half hour, 45 minutes, we're going to do a small test piece, and if it goes well, we'll continue on.
The problem is the wind. Though the rain has stopped, Mistaken Point is having gale force winds, 80 to 100 kilometers an hour. Almost everybody's in safety harnesses, though down on the deck, it's almost sheltered from the worst of it.
We're going to go ahead and start foaming.
They only brought enough foaming material to complete the job under ideal conditions.
The mother mold it's called, which holds the shape. Rubber latex is very flexible, so it won't hold its own shape. So what we do, we make a support mold that's solid.
The foam box is dried nicely overnight. Now it's time to see if the latex did its job. Carefully, the mat is lifted from the bottom edge.
The mold looks awesome, looks very good. There are no bubbles in the surface that will be a problem for study and for display. Yeah, I'm very happy with the project.
The rubber is very heavy, so the decision is made to cut it into pieces. They're also looking at a lot of little rubber bits sticking to the rock.
A lot of cleanup. You're seeing all the cracks here. Gotta get every speck out of here.
Even cut into pieces, the carpet of rubber is extremely heavy. And after a week of hard physical labor, still in stocking feet, they haul it up to the equipment drop site. For some, it's almost too much.
They did this as a sample to see if the technique will actually work to cast a much larger surface. You can see the top of this cast, and the bottom part is fiberglass material, so it's fairly light material. You know, if you change the angle of light, you'll see the fossils differently according to the light. And this is going to be the same thing with the larger cast. They will be able to perhaps discover new fossils.
As the last rubber mat is hauled up off the rock, the helicopter is arriving to take it back to base camp for transport by truck. But the work is far from over. The crew is already back on the fossil face cleaning up after themselves. No mess, no mementos, except for the cast they'll make of one of the greatest fossil collections in the world.